I'd like to now introduce Mike Turner from New Zealand Extracts. Mike has been a fellow of the New Zealand Institute of Food Science and Technology for more than 20 years and has almost 50 years of commercial experience in bringing to market new and innovative food and nutraceutical opportunities to New Zealand, Europe and the USA. After a stellar career with innovative multinational companies, Mike purchased a small private business in Blenheim, turning grape waste into a functional ingredient via an in-house developed water-based extraction. It was at this stage that his research relationship with the CRIs began. Mike.
Thank you, everyone, and I apologise for the limp. I've got a couple of health problems, but I'm surviving. That's the big important thing. What I'm going to talk about is the journey of New Zealand Extracts from when I picked it up in 2006, eventually purchasing the business shortly thereafter. But effectively, New Zealand Extracts was created by the wine industry in the Marlborough region. The biggest problem with the wine industry is what to do with the waste material that's generated from 400,000 tonnes of grapes that are harvested annually in a 4-week period. So there's a lot of waste material. There's roughly about 80,000 tonnes of what we call grape bark. So that's the skins and seeds. And that's a big hole to dig. And that's essentially what's been happening for many years. So what we were looking to do is take some of that material, and in particular the seeds that are present in that product, and remove a high level of antioxidants that are present on the outside of the seeds. It's one of the most healthiest seed that exists in the plant world. There's in excess of 3% by weight of the seed is antioxidants. Now what we did was, rather than develop a traditional process, and I say a traditional process because they are typically using organic solvents, and we didn't like that. I didn't like that, because organic solvents, when they get in our body, we've got to break them down, we've got to use a lot of energy and a lot of health. But also, what do you do with the waste streams that you generate? Yes, you can recycle them, but it's not healthy. So we developed a bespoke water extraction process. And my gut feeling with that one was that if something dissolves in water, it's going to dissolve in our gut systems a lot faster and get into the bloodstream, where it's going to do the goodness that we need it to do. Now, when we went to the marketplace, we were challenged because the traditional process for grapeseed extract is a solvent one, and here's somebody coming along with a water process. What benefits are you going to deliver that's going to give us the impression that we could use your product as an alternative? What they found was that there were some unique properties in the product. They kept coming back to me and saying, did you know this? Our problem was that we had no science. We were a small company and we had to spend money to try and develop that science, and that doesn't happen in 5 minutes. We did find that the solvent-free option did give us some actual more marketable product, because when you go to halal countries, they don't want to know about alcohol. Even if they've cleaned it up and got rid of it all, the fact that it's had traces is a problem. And the other thing too is the wine industry in the Marlborough and other parts of the country use sustainable growing practices, for the plants and for the grapes. So there's a whole lot of ticks in the right-hand box. So anyway, we did this and we created a modest-sized business. Now we also applied that technology to a lot of other fruit materials. So our whole business uses waste streams from different plant-based materials. So if we're juicing black currants or boysenberries or kiwi fruit, the skins and all those sort of things, bring them to us, because we can take the goodness out of that. And we created a business that we started selling to nutraceutical companies all around the world. However, there was one problem. Where's the science? And we were spending as much money as we can from turnover and cash that we were generating to do that, but that's not a lot. In 2022, I was trying for the second time to retire. What am I standing here for? Because it's now a few years later and I'm still working. Anyway, I went to one of our customers in Japan, and the company in Japan actually owns a vineyard in the Wairarapa, and they've been a long-term customer. And I spoke to them and said, look guys, I've got to hang up my hat. They then said, they turned around to me and said, well, can we buy your business? So it turned out that that was the cheapest and easiest sale I ever made in my life, because they did buy the business, but on the proviso that the technology and the IP that it developed was staying in New Zealand. That's really important to me, because all the people that were working for the business and all the money that was spent, it needed to stay here, and we were doing something that was different. Now, they then told me that they'd actually been working on our grapeseed extract, and that's why they wanted to buy the business. And they'd been doing some research with the Tokushima University, which is a modest-sized university in a city called Maibara, which is close to Kyoto. Okay? That was great because Kyoto actually has a major cancer research institution. And that's actually, there's even some Nobel laureates that have come from there. So, strong presence. And they'd been working on our grapeseed extract, which I didn't know about, in the treatment of people with cancer. And I'm going to sort of show you some of the first of the information here. So what they were doing was taking our grapeseed extract, and they did some clinical trials. They didn't do them in Japan because the cost of doing a clinical trial over there is enormous. It's like 10 times the cost of anything in New Zealand, perhaps even 100 times. And also the legal paperwork to get through to do the trial itself. So they actually went to Kazakhstan. They had a relationship with a medical centre there. And I know that sounds funny, but this was a legit centre, and they were working with the Kyoto University, so they wouldn't be working because of their reputation with anybody that didn't have the process. But this clinical trial involved women with stage 4 cancer, breast cancer. And what they were feeding them was our grapeseed extract, and they were actually measuring the impact of the chemotherapy drugs and the symptoms. And they found that our grapeseed extract helped to suppress those side reactions, those side things. And as you can see, I'll leave that up there for a few seconds, but this is the without, and this is the with, in terms of the reduction. And that was a clinical trial that was published by the Cancer Society in Japan. So they actually checked it and were happy with the way it was presented and did it from there. Now, Osawa, which is the company that had bought the business from us, then felt that we're got a tiger by the tail here, potentially, because if we're a global market, this gets out, this is science. This is not real good science though, because what is the grapeseed extract doing and how is it helping and everything else. We know the symptoms are good, but we need to understand what goes in the body, what's happening in the body to find that. But anyway, all that being done, in New Zealand, I got hold of this information and I went to Plant and Food in Callaghan. And I said, look, we need to be doing something similar. We need to actually find out what is actually going on with our grapeseed extract, because we'd had our customers telling us for a number of years that it's unique. We hadn't had the science to do it. And so at that point, I was introduced to the BPA. And they were a godsend. Their funding, because we were using waste stream, ticked a number of their boxes. We were going to be generating potentially export sales, so exchange. So there was a return on the investment for the New Zealand government and the economy. So tick, 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 all good. And so we began now a 3.5 years project, which it's been. And it's been done in 2 stages. So we actually got our first initial grant of 149K. That's a lot of money. We matched it ourselves, and we then set about trying to find the compositional. Was there a change in compositional difference between our grapeseed extract? Because in the global market, there's about 3,000 tonnes of grapeseed extract sold each year, and it sells from anything from 50 to 400 bucks a kilo. So we're talking millions. In New Zealand, if we were to use all of the 80,000 tonnes of grape mark, we'd only get about 180 tonnes of extract. So small market, a small player in a big market, essentially. But at the same time, if we had some science behind it, which is what we're about to do, we could then actually demand a premium. Yeah, we weren't competing against Chinese-based materials, which is a big problem for us. Anyway, all that being said, so we then started on the work with Plant and Food and with Callaghan, because they physically did all the hard work in our facility, which was great because they got hands-on. And we found in a very short time that we were the composition of our grapeseed extract was indeed different. Now what we did is we went and collected grapeseed extracts from all around the world, from Europe, from North America, from Asia, from wherever we could get them. And I think we ended up with about 14 or 15 different grapeseed extracts. And ours was different. It was different. So that's, oh sorry, I've gone a little bit far forward here. That's the actual profile, and it's hard to read, and I've got hard copy if anybody's interested. But these two products here are our grapeseed extract. This is the closest we could find in a competitive product from around the world. The most significant thing is this blue. Now, in grape seeds, there's a group of antioxidants or polyphenols called the OPCs. And we have significantly more of them than anybody else, and the lower molecular weight ones. So these are just procyanidin for three little groups stuck together. So that is a significant reason. Didn't tell us what they were doing and how they were helping us provide all those functional benefits that were being seen, but at least we had number one ticked off. We had something that was different. Okay? And that was good news, because we need to get that information back out into the marketplace. There's a bit of wording down there that sort of supports all of that. The second part of it was that this research found that we had some benefit from our grapeseed extract, and that it modulated the immune system. Now, in our bloodstream, we've got cytokines, the white blood cells. There's a whole bunch of them, a whole bunch indeed. And I won't get this exactly right, and there's some experts in the room that can actually support me on this one. But anyway, there's a whole bunch, and some of them are messengers, and some of them do the dirty to kill off an infection. Okay? And so what happens is that when you get an infection in your body and these cytokines go, what happens is that they attack the site of the inflammation, but they also keep going, and they attack the area around that inflammation, and that can cause all sorts of side reactions and upset your health, so you don't actually get the result. What our grapeseed extract was doing was it was triggering the right cytokines to do the job, and then it was backing off. So that meant that the inflammation, in theory, because we've got to do some clinical work on this to actually verify this, appears to stop. So they attacked the problem, and then it backed off. We trialled that process. These were in vitro trials with other grapeseed extract, and we used the one that was closest to our composition. Didn't work. Didn't work at all. So it's possible, and this is where we've got more research to do, that in fact this is what's going on with those women when they took it in Kazakhstan, and they did that commercial trial because the drugs possibly were attacking the point of the infection, and then by this backing off, we didn't get a complication in terms of other things that were going on with their health. Now the other thing too that they've found, and this is going through science now in Japan, is that we have in fact found that we can, with cancer patients, reduce the amount of those cancer therapy drugs. So you can use lower dosing levels, and therefore the side reactions from that are even less. Okay? Okay, I've got a pull finger. So I'll go back quickly. Oh, how do I get back to the beginning? Here we go. So this is our production facility in Blenheim. This is something that we've just finished building. So the Japanese have not just assisted us with the research, but they've also built a freeze drying facility for us. And it's a pharma grade. So it's for us to be able to supply our extract products to the pharmaceutical industry in general. Okay, we talked about that one. And these are the results from the immune modulation activity. Like if anybody wants to see some more information on that, I'm happy to share that. Effectively, I'm not the expert, I can't understand all that completely myself. I'm an engineer. But nevertheless, what it's telling us, this modulating impact. So according to the scientists, we have real modulating immune protection. We have compositionally something different. And in a marketplace where there is significant business opportunity, I mean, if we were to run, and we were doing this with plant and food, as a secondary reaction, we're looking to try and increase our production capacity. And we've now come up with a revised process that will allow us to 3 times produce more product on the same plant. So that's a help as well, but the science is the thing that's important to the marketplace. But, you know, if we used our existing setup, our existing process, and we went to the market, then there's a possibility we could generate about $8 million conservatively. With the new process, we could go to $165 million per annum in sales. There's potentially available for us, you know, 80,000 metric tonnes of marc, which is about 8,000 tonnes of seeds. 2% of that is about 160 tonnes of grapeseed extract. Now, the final thing I'm going to say, and I'm sorry I've just gone over time, is I'd like to thank and acknowledge the work of the BPA. Without them, their funding, this wouldn't have happened, and we want to talk to them now about a third project. We've got to get that in now. I've already talked to the 2 other partners, and they're in support. So the plant and food team, you know, fantastic bunch of guys. They did a heck of a lot of work. Long hours of analytical testing, all these tedious tests repeating, looking at the marketplace. And the Callaghan innovation team, they came to our factory many times, loaded up with a van full of kit and everything else, and unloaded it and worked for 2 or 3 days or all hours of the day and night. So, you know, those 2 Crown research institutions with the support of the BPA, we just couldn't have done it without it, guys. Thank you so much.